2015, and this is the Texas Library Association webinar on grants research with the Foundation Libraries. I want to thank you all for attending today. Just a few tips before we start out. To conserve bandwidth, we really do encourage people to close all other applications, otherwise you may notice lag at some point on video or audio. In fact, we may actually shut the camera off in a little bit to help you out with that. Feel free to use the chat box, as you've seen people doing, to pose questions or comments at any time. And then depending on how we're doing with that particular subject, we'll either stop right there to answer the question or we'll answer questions at the end. The webinar will be recorded. I will be posting the webinar tomorrow and sending a link out to everyone who is registered. We have quite a few people registered today. About 70 people ended up registering for this webinar, so it's a great crowd. And we see people continuing to join even as I'm speaking. But we will send out the recording tomorrow, and you'll be able to play that back. We will give CE credit for watching the recording, and for those of you who end up doing that later, there'll be 3 questions at the end that people who watch the recordings can send to me. There'll be an email address there, and then we'll approve a CE certificate for that person within 72 hours. If you are here now participating in the live webinar, you do not have to answer the questions. You're good. We will show, the records will show that you logged in, you're fine, that'll be the verification, and so you'll be able to print your CE certificate tomorrow. A PDF version of this PowerPoint will also be sent out with the recording, and I think that's about all the details. So again, thank you all for coming today, and I want to introduce our speakers, and I have Ellen Moutos-Lee and Angela Gooden, both from the Foundation Library at UT. Ladies?
Good afternoon. I am Ellen Moutos-Lee. I'm the director of the Regional Foundation Library. We're located within the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement at the University of Texas at Austin. I've been a director for the past year, and I've worked with Central Texas nonprofits in this cooperating collection for about 10 years.
And I'm Angela Gooden. I'm from the Community Engagement Center as well. I'm the assistant director there. And on weekends, when I'm not shuttling my daughter around from birthday party to birthday party, I enjoy a good game of Scrabble, not Words with Friends, but Scrabble, board Scrabble, and I also delve into couponing.
Very good. Okay. So the Regional Foundation Library is a cooperating collection of the Foundation Center of New York. This is a funding information center that's headquartered in New York. They have cooperating collections throughout the U.S. You'll see our email here. It is rfl@austin.utexas.edu. And this is the Foundation Center's website. Their mission is to strengthen the nonprofit sector by advancing knowledge about U.S. philanthropy.
Okay, Foundation Center Cooperating Collections. Well, cooperating collections are essentially free funding information centers in libraries, community foundations, or other nonprofit resource centers that provide a core collection of Foundation Center publications, yes, that means books in some cases, and a variety of supplementary materials and services in areas useful to grant seekers. The core collection includes Foundation Directory Online Professional, Foundation Grants to Individuals Online, and Philanthropy Insight, a data visualization platform for global philanthropy. Today we'll focus on the Foundation Directory Online. What you see here is a list of the 21 Foundation centers within the great state of Texas. One thing you may want to note is that when you go to these centers, or you have your constituents go to these centers, be sure to call ahead to see if the center prefers appointments or if they're okay with walk-ins. Types of grant makers, on to the fun stuff. There are 3 main types of grant makers that are considered private foundations. Independent foundations are grant makers whose funds come from an individual, a family, or a group of individuals. These range from the very large foundations like the Gate Foundations to small, all-volunteer run foundations. Many refer to themselves as family foundations due to the involvement of family members in the grant-making process. Company-sponsored foundations all are also called corporate foundations. They derive their funds from an endowment and annual contributions from the profit-making company. Their giving tends to be in fields related to corporate activities or in communities where corporations operate. An example of that would be AT&T, which is housed in Dallas. Operating foundations, an endowment usually from a single source and funds usually used to provide a direct service or conduct research. Grants generally related directly to the foundation's program. A great example of that would be Breckenridge Library and Fine Arts Foundation in Breckenridge, Texas.
The Foundation Directory Online Database is an online funding research tool that's developed by the Foundation Center. This database is updated continually by the Foundation Center staff in New York. It provides current and comprehensive information on grant makers in the U.S. and their grant-making activities. The information is drawn from IRS documents, grant maker websites, annual reports, and the grant makers themselves. And the database houses more than 108,000 U.S. foundations and corporate donors. It's also important to access a database like this at a collection because, first, it's no charge to you. We pay the membership fee. And second, most family foundations do not have websites. So there are going to be foundations right in your community that you may not be aware of because they do not have a website. I believe it's less than 30% of all the foundations in the country that have websites. And then this slide is a shot of the Foundation Center homepage. So that website, foundationcenter.org, is a good website to bookmark. It has a lot of good free information. There's a gold toolbar along the top of the page that has frequently asked questions, proposal writing tutorials, a lot of just good free information. You can click around on the website, find different things that you might be interested in reading about. You can, if you have the name of a foundation, you can go to Foundation Finder in the box right here. It's under Find Funders. You can type the funder's name in it and get their basic contact information. This is also a good resource or area to look at a Foundation's 990. And then the little gold box that says Foundation Directory Online, if you click on that, you will not be able to access it. That's what you're coming into the libraries to use. That's what we house and is available to you for no charge. Now, what I'm showing here is an example of a search. And what we've done is we've asked what grant makers, and you can populate the boxes by clicking View Index. So for this particular one, I asked who in Texas, so I put the state, put Texas, and then I went to fields of interest, and I put public libraries and library science. You can put as many or as few fields of interest as you want to. You can also put in types of support. You can really drill down and maybe just see what funders are in your county, and it will pull up a list. So this is just a basic search of who in Texas funds public libraries or library science. And this is the list. So I got a list of 35 family, corporate sponsors, foundations that say they fund libraries. Now there are, let me go ahead and click on one. The one I'm going to pull up as an example is the Talker Foundation. They're located in Austin. However, they fund libraries in rural communities throughout Texas. This is a snapshot of their profile. You'll see that it gives you their contact information. Further down on the profile, it gives you a little more information, but you have these visual tabs that you're able to click on, and you can click on a map and see where they've mapped throughout Texas or where they've funded throughout Texas. You can also search grants, so you would find out what grants they've given, and you can also chart their grant making. And this is available for almost all of the foundation profiles on this database. The way you take this information with you from our libraries is you click on, under Tools, you'll click on Email, and you'll email the document to yourself. So you'll get all that information in a PDF format.
And that's really beneficial for those of us in Austin who have to bring our recyclable bags. We're all about being green, so email instead of use paper.
That's true. And it'll show up with if they have a website or an email, that link will be active, as will the 990. And the next slide shows an example of where the Talker Foundation is funded in Texas. So what I did was I clicked on Map, and now it has mapped all of Texas, all 222 counties. And the ones shaded in blue are where they've funded. So you can see they funded down in the Valley, East Texas, West Texas, even up in the Panhandle. Other types of grant makers that you may want to look into are direct corporate giving. Direct corporate giving, their grant making program is established and administered within a profit-making company. They're not a separate entity. They do not have a separate endowment like a corporate foundation. A good example of that is the Dell Corporate Giving Program. That versus the Michael and Susan Dell Family Foundation. They are a family foundation as opposed to the company. They do not have a company-sponsored foundation. They have direct corporate giving. The second type of grant maker that's very good are community foundations. Community foundations make grants for charitable purposes in specific communities or regions, and they receive their funds from a variety of donors. Community foundations allow donors to help improve a particular area or region. A good example would be the Amarillo Area Foundation. Their mission is to improve the quality of life in the Texas Panhandle region. The other type of grant makers include grant-making public charities. These are public charities that usually derive their funding or their support primarily from the general public. They also receive grants not only from individuals, but government and private foundations. These public charities pool donations with like-minded donors to support a particular cause or issue. An example of public charities would be the Live Strong Foundation. They get grants and they give grants. Also the Austin Film Society.
Okay, now we're at the point where we want to identify funding partners. You can identify grant makers that express an interest in specific funding fields that identify with yours. The funder's profile in the database gives you this information. Identify grant makers located in your region, or grant makers that give in your region. Some funders give nationally or internationally, but most will limit their funding to specific geographic areas to a certain town, county, or state. Identify the type of support your organization needs. Could be program development, equipment, general operating. You know what your group needs. Make sure the funder states that they're giving for the type of support that you're seeking. You don't want to run into an example where you find a good grant, but then you find that you're looking for general operating funds and they specifically say, no, that's not where we're funding for, or they're only focused on providing funds and program development. So pay attention to that area. Follow the grant maker's guidelines. Pay attention to application information and in the profile. Very important. If foundations have specific guidelines, they will tell you so. Guidelines can be found on the websites, or it may be suggested that you call them. People still use a phone, or email them for the additional guidelines. Make sure that they give you in their region.
Again, the way you'll know where they're giving is when you're on the database, you'll be able to see what geographic areas of giving their grants have been made. Foundations, each profile, they have different application information. Like Angela said, some will have you send a proposal by mail. Some will have you call for an application. And then there are a few that have all the application information, including submitting your application online. So each funder has decided how they want to do it, and it's important that you send in your proposal the way they want it given. For example, a lot of family organizations or family foundations will ask for 6 copies of one proposal. So don't send 2 copies of one proposal. They'll have specific guidelines. You'll want to follow it in the order that it's given in. And then there are others that just say, send us a proposal. And there are some good online resources on how you want to add or put together a proposal, including the information on the Foundation Center. So I've entered a few helpful websites. Again, we go back to the Foundation Center, foundationcenter.org. Good information, a lot of good free information. You can sign up for newsletters, email listservs, RFPs. The other websites would include Department of State Health Services here in Austin actually have a good website where you can find out information on federal and state government funding. They also have grant writing information and grant tips. The next website is the National Center on Charitable Statistics. This is a national repository of data on the nonprofit sector in the United States. Their mission is to develop and disseminate high-quality data on nonprofit organizations and their activities. Another website I would have you add is guidestar.org. If you're not familiar with that one, that's a very good website. They collect and organize and present information on nonprofits and foundations. It's also a good location to look at a 990.
And what we're preparing to do as we get further on in the program, Angela is actually going to the Foundation directory, which they, as librarians, are able to access from the web. You would need to come in to use this resource, but they can. Hopefully we'll be able to actually show you some of the searches that were referred to earlier. And as they set that up, we'll be sharing screens in a moment so that you'll be able to see that. The slides were a little dark in places and they're always kind of small, but you'll be able to see this in more detail. While they access and put in the codes and everything to make that connection, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to chat those into the chat box. As you saw, there are foundation libraries scattered throughout Texas, so there should be access to one pretty much all through the state. And of course, the people we have today are representing the one in Austin, but the services are very similar at all of the libraries.
Okay, so we will not be able to do a live demonstration, but again, if you go back to the slides on where we went in and pay for when you can go to a collection nearest to you and use it at no charge. Again, you can populate the search boxes as much as you need to and as specifically as you need to, and find out who's funding in your area for your areas of interest. And you can do more than just libraries. You can put in education, you can put in social services, youth services, humanities, a lot of different topics that your programs cover than just libraries. Also, you can do another search where you search grant recipients. So, for example, if there's a nonprofit and you're wondering who funds that particular nonprofit, you can type their name into the database and it will show up what foundations have funded them in the past. You can also put in geographic regions and see who's funded in those regions. So there's two ways to work this database. Who is the grant maker? Who is the grant recipient?
And on this page, we'll go back and mention that you can narrow your results. So on this particular search, we only got about 35, so that's very manageable. You can look at all of those, but sometimes you'll get as many as 100 to 200, and you may not have time to go through all of those, nor may they all be relevant. So on the left over here, you can narrow your results by the type of grant maker, if you want to get specific enough that way. You can also narrow them by geographic region so that you get only those who, well, fund in Texas naturally, but maybe they're coming from a different area and you want to really greaten your chances of getting a particular grant. So as we said earlier, though, we're still willing and ready to accept any questions that you have.
The other thing we'll go ahead and mention when you're searching for different types of support, there's going to be a list that each library will have, and it will also be in the database that defines the types of support that grant makers use. For example, you're looking at curriculum development. You can actually hone in on those foundations that actually say they specifically fund curriculum development or general operating, program development, equipment. There's lots of different types of support that you need that they can fund, and you can also search by that, by the type of support.
Okay, and yes, I see your question here, Ron. Thanks for asking it. Right, when you're in the library, we do have a special password that we use because this is a paid-for resource, and yes, you do need a special password, but of course I can't give that out today.
So that's something each cooperating collection has, is they pay their own membership fee, and then they put in their password. All the resources are used on site, so you will use this database at no charge on site. So you won't have that password, but you will have access to all the information, and again, you can email that to yourself.
Find a library participating in this foundation site. Well, there was a listing of the 21 libraries within the state of Texas. And since we're trying to still share a website, I can't go back to it right now, but it was at the beginning of the presentation, and we'll be able to go back to it in just a little bit, Elizabeth. But there are 21 collections in the state of Texas, though.
So while we're waiting, I'll just, let me see if I can tell you where those are. So there is a collection in Amarillo at the Amarillo Area Foundation, Arlington at the Arlington Public Library, in Austin it's here at the Regional Foundation Library. In Beaumont, it's Southeast Texas Nonprofit Development Center. Dallas is at the Dallas Public Library downtown. Edinburgh, it's located in the Southwest Border Nonprofit Resource Center at the University of Texas Pan Am. El Paso is at the University of Texas at El Paso. In Fort Worth, it's the Funding Information Center of Fort Worth.
Oh, and that's where Elizabeth is from.
Mm-hmm. So again, you can, it's all, the names are on the slides earlier in this presentation. You can also get the locations off the Foundation Center website. Houston has two, Houston Public Library, and then at the United Way of Greater Houston, Kingsville, Texas A&M University, Kingsville, Laredo, Texas A&M International University. In Longview, it's the Longview Public Library. Lubbock has one at the Lubbock Area Foundation. North Richland Hills has one in their public library. San Angelo at the Tom Green County Public Library. And San Antonio has theirs with the San Antonio Area Foundation Center for Nonprofit Support. Tyler has one also, United Way of Tyler, Victoria at the University of Houston, Victoria, Waco, McLennan County Library, and in Wichita Falls at the Nonprofit Management Center. You will not have access to this particular foundation directory through GrantStation.
So GrantStation is a separate product?
It is. Not through the Foundation Center.
Did that answer your question, Ron? Additional questions?
And there are different databases, but the Foundation Center Foundation Directory Online is comprehensive. It will have all the foundations in the U.S. And there are actually family foundations outside of Texas that give back to Texas. Several reasons. They may be from Texas, so they've set their foundation up in the city that they're living in now, but they give back to Texas. Or for tax purposes, some are incorporated in other states. Also at the cooperating collections, there are other tools that we're not covering today. Today is very specifically grant foundation funding, but there's also another database at these cooperating collections called Foundation Grants to Individuals. So we have a lot of students use that, looking for funding for school. And then the Philanthropy Insight is it's a mapping tool.
For our attendees today, do you have specific areas that you're looking for? Are you seeking grants pretty soon here? And if so, do you mind sharing some of the things you're interested in seeking? Ebook funding, okay. RFID and self-checkout. Title V. Ooh, new building. That's always a nice one, but a pretty pricey one. So capital funding would be the top search on your list, Kim. RFID and building expansion. Linda says research and sustainable development. Digitization.
Okay, so the research and sustainable development, there's actually a type of support called management development capacity building. So there are all the types of support and areas of interest that you're talking about. There are grant makers out there doing these types of activities. And again, they're going to be your family foundations, your community foundations are excellent resources, as are your corporate foundations. There are a lot of corporations, they may be headquartered in another state, but they're giving to areas in Texas because they have operating locations here. And I see one that says, which month is most popular for grant deadlines? That varies. In the private world of grant seeking, some grant makers have no deadlines and they check each month. Some have deadlines quarterly, some twice a year, some once a year. That is what each profile will tell you. What are the deadlines? And you can, from there, figure out when they make those grants. So it will vary. So no specific deadlines. Oh, the print, okay, I'm going to go back to the grant makers for historical archives. Yes, that's definitely an area of interest, and funders fund historical preservation, historical societies, those types of activities. You'll find that in the database. Engineering research, yes, that's going to be an area of interest you'll find in the database. So when you're clicking on that index, you'll go and you'll find engineering. So we're going to scroll back. So on that page, you can see fields of interest. Engineering is going to be one of those. We're not doing a live demonstration, so I'm not going to be able to show you that. Oh, the Tyler United Way link is incorrect. That's what we got off the Foundation Center, so we'll contact them about that. Also, in addition to the database at these collections, there are different print resources that the Foundation Center sends out. There's books on proposal writing. There's also several books called Winning Proposals. So these are actually proposals that have been funded by foundations, and you actually get to read through them, probably make copies. I know you can make copies of them at our facility. And it's nice because it tells you what the project was for, whether it was a capital campaign, project funding, equipment. It also shares with you not only the name of the nonprofit, but the foundation that gave the money to them, and then their comments about the proposal. Yes, the Austin Public Library does have the Foundation Directory online.
And we didn't forget you, Sharon. I see your question up here. Which month is most popular for grant deadlines? Well, I think Ellen would agree that it varies. It just varies from entity to entity. So there isn't, June isn't the month to make sure you get all your grants in. So.
And then Sue had also said the Foundation Directory is at the downtown Austin Library. I believe it's also at the branch libraries. I know I've used it in the one in my neighborhood, but that's here in Austin. The directory is available at the Houston Public Library. I know it's available at the one downtown. You would need to call them to see if they have it at their other branches. But yes, Tyler can certainly take care of that problem if that's incorrect link that the Foundation Center has.
Additional questions?
Our library is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we are located here in Austin at 1009 East 11th Street. If you have any questions, you can always email us. We're happy to answer questions by phone or email.
And for those who are outside of Austin, if you've heard anything about Franklin's Barbecue, and this is not a plug for Franklin, he just happens to be down the street from us, and he was in Gourmet Magazine. We're located down the street from Franklin Barbecue.
That's a good landmark. That's how you'll find us. You'll see a line.
Any additional questions? It's a sunny day here in Austin, and hopefully it is as well for you out there in Dallas and Houston and other parts of the state.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to today's webinar. I do have a few wrap-up details that I'll be giving here in the next few minutes, but we appreciate both of our speakers coming today. They've offered a tremendous amount of material, and don't hesitate to contact them at the Foundation Library in Austin or your nearest Foundation Library from the directory. I want to point out that there are several other grant and fundraising webinars in this series. Today was the grant research, but tomorrow at 10 a.m. we have Jennifer Peters of the Texas Association of Partners in Education, and she will be speaking on grant writing. So after you've done the research, how do you fill out the application? Next week, we will, on May 14th, We will have Tim Staley from the Austin Public Library Foundation speaking on best practices for Friends of Large Public Libraries. And a few days later, on the 16th, we'll have the leadership of the Friends of the Alpine Public Library from West Texas speaking on best practices for Friends of Small Public Libraries. In the meantime, on May 15th at 2 p.m., we will also have representatives from the Institute of Museum and Library Services who will be speaking on the wide array of programs available from their institution. The week after, on May 21st, we will have people from the Talker Foundation, and you heard our speakers mention the Talker Foundation a little bit earlier. They'll be talking about their grants and services, and they have just updated their interface. They just let us know at TLA conference that they did that. So they'll be talking about their new ways to get into their system. On May 29th, we have a special program on grant research with Grant Station, a particular software that you heard mentioned on the chat box a little bit earlier. And people who join TLA, institutions which join TLA as institutional members, get a discount on Grant Station. So we want to give a little tour of that resource. And then finally, on May 30th, we hope to have Laura Browning, who is a nationally known grant reviewer from Louisiana, and she'll be speaking on grant management. Okay, you've got the letter, you've got the grant, now what do you do? And she'll be talking about that. In addition, we'll be following up in the fall with several other programs with friends from school and academic libraries and some other programs on grant research. If you are watching the recorded version of this program, I'm about to give you 3 questions to answer and send to me at tedw@txla.org, and then I'll approve a CE certificate for you within 72 hours. If you are watching the live webinar right now, if you are hearing my voice right now, you do not need to answer these questions. You will get your CE tomorrow. You'll be able to go in and print that out at www.txla.org, the same place where you registered. The 3 questions are: 1, how much does it cost to use the resources at the Foundation libraries? 2, name one of the 3 types of private foundations. And 3, name one of the 3 groups you should identify or specify before consulting the grants databases. Send those answers to me if you're watching the recorded version. Again, we want to thank everyone for watching today. I'm not seeing any additional questions, so please feel free to contact our speakers if you have more material. Thanks so much, and we will post the recording tomorrow. Hope to see you all at Jennifer Peters' webinar.